You guys are not even going to believe it when I say that when I was 15, I almost became a stepmom. Yes, we did skip a few chapters, so let's start from the beginning of the book. Back in the day, in middle school, there was this new bad boy in town. And for the purpose of the story, his name will be Dean. So Dean was a little bit older, but he would date some of the middle school girls. A little sus, I know, but even beyond this man had a bad reputation. And I did my best to stay away from guys like him. That was until the second quarter of my sophomore year in high school happened. And while my mom and I were walking around Walmart looking for a pair of jeans, we ran into Dean's mom. Well, our mom started talking and bonded really well. And that's when his mom suggested that we would be a really cute couple. She talked about how much he's changed, so I went ahead and added him on Snap. And the insane thing is that we actually started having really good conversation. Like deep existential ones. But one night I was bored and started to creep on his Instagram account. And I came across a gender reveal photo. This man had a whole son on the way. And I accidentally liked the photo, and that's when I got a text from Dean saying, "Go ahead, ask me." So part 2 to me almost becoming a stepmom at the age of 15. So when he asked me about liking the gender reveal photo, I just decided to go ahead and play it dumb and be like, "What?" And then he tried to act like that text was meant for someone else. And then I go, "Are you sure you didn't want to ask me about your kid?" He was literally so embarrassed and thought that I would think of him differently. But he told me that him and that girl broke up, so I honestly didn't care. I was just like, so I could potentially be his stepmom. And he was like, "Yeah, I would actually love that." So we continue to snap and talk as normal and start to date. I caught feelings for Dean so hard. But one night when we were snapping, I got really excited and opened it up. And it was some girl. It said, "Who the F are you and why are you snapping my man?" I was like, "Me and Dean have been talking." And she was like, "I'm his baby mama and girlfriend." So I literally told her everything that this man had said to me and that he was in love with me. But then I blocked him on everything because I didn't want to break up their family. Ladies, if a baby mama is involved, always do that little extra bit of stalking to make sure they're really not together. Follow my Insta. So a lot of people argue that you should never look through your man's phone. But like, what if you just have that gut feeling that something's going on? And even worse, what if you do open his Snapchat and see a naked girl? So I downloaded this app called Wink and made a friend that we can call Shane. And even though Shane and I got really close over the phone, he lived in another state, so we never really got to meet. But one night he was coming home drunk from a hotel with his cousin, and I was coming home from a college party, and I said his cousin, who we can call PJ, was hot AF. And so Shane was like, "Oh my god, let me give you this man's snap." And a few months later, PJ and I were talking. And he agreed to drive the 4 hours to come to my state just to see me. I was busy cleaning my apartment that day preparing for him to come, and told him just to walk in when he gets here. So when this man came in, I kid you not, he walked in with a bouquet of flowers. And they were a dozen yellow roses, which he knew were my favorite. And after he left on Sunday, he asked if he could see me the next week, and I happily said yes. And before long, PJ and I started dating, but this happiness was soon to end. So welcome back to me finding nudes on my boyfriend's phone. I'm sorry, ex-boyfriend now. But seriously, guys, do not be love blind, because this guy literally was driving 4 hours to see me every week. He would call me on all of his breaks. All of my friends were completely won over by him. And it didn't take him long to win over my family too. And about a month in, he finally took me to meet his friends and family. Our lives meshed so well that he asked me to move in with him at a party that night. I was hesitant at first, but then I packed up all of my stuff out of my apartment and moved out of state to be with this man. And after all of that, this man switched it up on me. He stopped taking me to parties with him and started leaving on Friday afternoons while I was at work and wouldn't tell me where he was. He wouldn't come home until like 6 or 7 in the morning on Saturday. And then we would just argue the rest of the weekend about it. Like, "Sir, I moved away from my family, moved out of my apartment, quit my job for you." He was straight up treating me like it didn't matter, and I saw him going to his phone all the time and acting secretive. And eventually I couldn't take it anymore, so I opened his phone when he was sleeping. So part 3 to me finding nudes on my cheating boyfriend's phone. I also forgot to mention this giant red flag. We were no longer active. Like, this man had cut off our sex life. So when I grabbed his phone, the first Snapchat that I opened was from a girl who was touching herself. My heart stopped for a second, but I was like, okay, let me just give this man the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's just some girl trying to be sneaky, trying to pull one over him. But then I noticed that all of the recent snaps were from girls. So I started to go through all of his conversations and realized that he was messing with every girl on his snap. Every! And then there was this one girl who didn't have like sexual messages with him. They were more like lovey-dovey. But it went back to way before we were dating, so this man had never been faithful to me. I broke down, I blocked every girl on his snap, and then I threw his phone at his face to wake him up. I demanded to know why he cheated on me, and that's when he realized that I'd blocked all the girls, and he freaked out and lunged at me. We got into an all-out brawl, and I broke my hand in the process and locked myself in the guest room. I think this is part 4 to my boyfriend cheating on me with every single girl on his Snapchat. So this is, of course, where this man just, sprinkled on a little bit of his gaslighting. I locked myself in the guest room, and then he started to cry and act pathetic from the other side of the door. Just saying that he was sorry, that he effed up, and he never meant to hurt me, and it was all his fault. And in that moment, I didn't know what else to do. I unlocked the door and cried in his arms, terrified. And I needed to go to the hospital because my hand was literally broken from our fight. Because I had given up everything and I was so in love with him, I decided to work things out, but it literally only lasted a week. We made the decision to break up, but he convinced me to keep living with him. But we set up ground rules, which included no girls over at the apartment and him not talking bad behind my back. But of course, one night when we went out to a party, we got into a massive fight and he caused a scene. And he talked so much smack about me at this party that his friend, who's a girl, turned around and was like, hey, you need to come live with me. I packed up my things and left, but I ended up moving in with Shane, the cousin, instead. And then I got really drunk one night and slept with Shane. So, for the next part. My ex cheated on me with every single girl in his Snapchat. So you might be wondering what happened after I slept with his cousin? Well, I felt awful because then me and PJ got back together a week later. You probably want to slap me, but he was different this time. He was caring, he was gentle, but literally I was not happy anymore. Everything felt so wrong. I decided to move back home with my sister, and as soon as I did, PJ started cheating on me again. And as soon as we broke up, I found out that I was pregnant. He ghosted me and left me to figure out things on my own. So I blocked him. And sadly, about a month after finding out I was pregnant, I ended up miscarrying. And PJ ended up getting a new phone and started texting me and calling me and blowing up asking to talk. And that's when I realized he didn't even know that I had lost the baby. So I decided to end up talking to him and he tried to get me back. I was extremely confused during this time. I continued to move on and away from him. But then he started just harassing me on TikTok. He would admit to cheating on me in the comments, bragging about it. And now he has a girlfriend, so I hope someone warns her. If you have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram. Have you guys ever had just little random things go missing from your house? It happens a lot and you just don't really think anything of it. But what if those things started to show up at your doorstep? That is exactly what my stalker did to me. So as all scary stories start, I met a guy on Tinder. And for the sake of the story, I feel like his name should be Ted. So Ted and I really hit it off and dated for 3 months, and that's when he asked me to be his girlfriend. I of course said yes, but that's when I saw a switch in his personality. He became this very dark, controlling figure in my life and kept me from seeing any of my friends and family. Once I realized this was emotional abuse, I left. And he was eerily calm about the breakup, which was not consistent with his controlling behavior. And around this time, I started to get anonymous packages delivered to my house. And they contained stuff that had been missing from my home. I tried to brush it off, but couldn't help but think it might be Ted. But that's when I got a text from Ted's best friend saying that Ted had passed away in a car crash. So I ruled him out, but that's when more weird things kept happening. The anonymous packages kept showing up, and then I noticed a car would follow me everywhere I went. Storytime part 2 to my stalker sending me missing items from my house. After I got the text message that my ex had passed away in a car crash, I immediately ruled him out. There's no way you can be dead and sending me packages. And then I started to notice anytime I would leave my house to go run errands, this one car was always there. They would always follow close or park next to me. And sometimes I would even think that I could see Ted, but I thought I was just imagining it, because I was dealing with his loss. But then I started to get texts from a random number, giving me information about where I lived, what I was doing. So I obviously blocked it. And then hundreds of new numbers would start to text me, and I couldn't keep blocking them all. So I finally talked to my mom about it and she made me go to the police. That's when the officers tracked one of the numbers back to Ted's house, which really confused me because I had already grieved his loss. But the officers let me know that he was very much alive, and they went to go arrest him and found him in my neighborhood in the car that I had seen following me, which was stolen and had photos of me all over it. If you guys have a story you want to share, follow me on Insta. The best thing to bring 2 girls together is being cheated on by the same man. So this is my best friend, and around the beginning of February last year, she got into a relationship with a man. And we'll go ahead and call this guy Bronson. So they had known each other for about 2 years prior and had talked on and off. But February of last year, they finally decided to get together. And he was like her ideal man. He was tall, Sagittarius, and had a country accent. And let me just tell you, he even charmed all of her friends. I straight up thought he was so good for her. That was until the bachelorette party. So she was a bridesmaid and I was a maid of honor in a wedding. And we noticed while we were out, her text messages got muted. And so we decided to look at his Snap location. And it was not where he was usually supposed to be. Spence texted him the next morning and was like, hey, did you cheat? And he completely denied it. So we chose to believe him until he fessed up 2 days later. We literally found the girl's TikTok later that day. He said he wouldn't cheat on her again as long as she didn't cross state lines again. And that remained true for 2 months. Part 2 to my best friend meeting her roommate. So even though Bronson had cheated on her, they decided to go ahead and try to make things work. Sometimes people make mistakes in relationships and things can be fixed. 2 months went by and everything seemed fantastic. This leads us to our date night. So Spence and Bronson were both asleep, but then she woke up to his phone literally blowing up. She went over to go check it because Bronson wasn't waking up, and it was just one of his guy friends blowing up his phone. So being worried that he might be in trouble or some kind of danger, she went ahead and decided to pick up the phone. Well, a girl answered on the other end. And it wasn't just any girl, it was his ex-girlfriend. And she was just as confused as Spence was. So they were still seeing each other while she thought that Spence was just a friend and Spence thought that she had been totally blocked. But he had just changed her ID contact to one of his best friend's names so that she wouldn't question anything. We'll call her Ashley, and they decided to meet up to discuss everything. And long story short, they ended up kicking him out and moving in together. But if you want more details on that, we can give a part 3 and 4. Follow me on Instagram if you want to send in your story.